They said there are no stupid question, but what's the most stupid question you have ever been asked? My ex-boyfriend asked me if the 4th of July was 15th or 14th. You might see why I dumped him. Edit. This may explain a lot about him. Lol. He cheated on me with my best friend twice. One summer I made friends with two German girls who were on holiday. One of them messaged a friend of mine to ask my address so they could send me a Christmas card. He literally lived across the hall in my building. My address was his address -1, and he knocked on my door to ask what my address was. I'm a recent amputee. During the recovery a doctor told me I may be faced with very dumb questions. I laughed it off. I mean, how dumb can they be? Yesterday, less than 48 hours after my discharge from the hospital, I was asked if something happened to my legs. I was warned, but I did not fucking listen. I was talking with a few friends about Pride Month, and I mentioned how I'm asexual. One absolute genius then asked me, what do you mean you're asexual? I saw you eat a hamburger the other day. Not the stupidest thing ever said, but I did have a serious WTF look on my face. Do you have The Simpsons in California? Someone asked my brother when he was in another state for a ski race. A close second is when the son of an old family friend said there are mountains in California when we told him we like to ski. I was born significantly deaf. Was once asked, do deaf babies know sign language when they are born? I worked at Blockbuster Video in 2004 for 6 months. I had 3 unrelated incidents, but the words and tone of all 3 were uncannily identical. They answered the question immediately before asking it, and they still didn't know the answer. Yeah, I know my movie was late. Why do I have to pay a late fee? Once a classmate, this was on year 10th or year 11th, asked me how I had managed to put ice into a plastic bottle. A friend of mine proceeded to tell her that there were YouTube tutorials on cut open and glue the bottle back together, and that it was super easy. Do people in Canada live in igloos? That's the perfect opportunity to give them satire answers. Well, yeah, and they ride moose around to go places and eat walrus for dinner every day. During a discussion about police emergencies in my high school class, a student asked what the phone number was for 911. A friend once asked my other friend, who was a history teacher, what was the president's reaction to JFK's assassination. After a funeral at the cemetery, a boy was looking around at all the various sizes of grave monuments. He asked, does the biggest one win? I live in a very popular tourist town. Is there anything to do around here? We've already seen the Walmart. What's Obama's last name? It was our first day at school and we were told to put paper and write our names on them so teachers would know our names. So the teacher called a person beside me by his name, and that person was surprised and was like, how did he know my name? I pointed at the paper and he laughed just to cover up the awkwardness. I felt that. My friend didn't know what an STD was. He was 16 BTW. So he asked what it was, and I replied, a sexually transmitted disease. His follow-up question was then, how is it transmitted? Worked at Disneyland Paris for 10 years. Very common to hear, what time is the 4 o'clock parade? If you get a non-guilty verdict, does that mean you can the crime again and not be charged? She was confused by double jeopardy. Boo, my favorite part was the again. Yesterday my mom FaceTimed me from her iPhone to ask, in a panic, do you have any idea where I might have left my iPhone? Is Germany in Russia? She was 16 at the time, and she had a young child. I still think about that kid, and it makes me sad at what little chance it has in the world. If I plug an extension cord into itself it'll work right. Of course. It provides infinite energy. Unfortunately, we can't get it out of the loop, so the search for renewable energy continues. I was in college in some basic science class and green energy came up. We were talking about different technologies we could leverage and wind turbines came up. Some dude asked how is it green if you need fuel to spin the turbine? Dumbest thing I've ever heard. Is the ice cream served cold? Usually as a waiter, I can game face almost anything, but there's no way my face didn't read, the fuck you just say? In my college geology class a student asked what would happen if the sun fell out of the Earth's orbit. After a friend of mine and I saw Godzilla King of Monsters she asked if dinosaurs used to hurt people back in the day. Lol, she is 33. Is a guinea pig a reptile? Did you choose to be half Asian? Yes, this was an actual question that was asked of me. Late response to the comments, I'm half Japanese and I look vaguely white/Asian. So no, I did not choose. I was born looking like a mix between a white person and an Asian person. Do they have, like, cities in Alabama? Question asked by a coworker at my retail job in LA. Angelinus are, in my experience, weirdly unaware of the existence of an America outside of SoCal. If I recall correctly, my answer to her question was that no, we all live in barns, and fuck our cousins. Has your third hole grown out yet? Said by my first boyfriend about my vagina at age 15. He literally thought girls only had 2 holes, and that the third one grows out, and boom you can lose your virginity now. Why don't you know karate, aren't you Japanese? The Karate Kid really mislead us all. How? Who was the president if the United States when William McKinley was assassinated? I work it. Asked a person if a mouse was wired or wireless. She said, how am I supposed to know that? This is your job. A friend of my parents asked me if I know him. He visited my parents while I was away to college, and I told him I was gone when he visited, but I saw pictures of you at your parents' house. You don't know me. Can't you drive to Hawaii? But wouldn't you have to learn a new language? This in regards to the idea of moving from the US to England. We were in high school. Do you speak Canadian? I thought it was a bad joke. It wasn't. Yesterday on a work Zoom call, training people how to use a new system. Everyone was issued a one-time password to log in and set up their account. It's asking me to confirm my new password. Do I use the one-time password or the new one I just set? Why do you have glasses? Why do you have a cast on your arm? I called to order a pizza, half plain and half pepperoni. Pizza girl, sounding unsure, I guess we could do that. Which half do you want the pepperonis on? Did you have to take a canoe to school? A question I was asked once when I told them I moved from Hawaii. In the days before cell phones, friend called me and asked where I was. Why are there so many cars there? It was a car dealership. What is 40 minus 10? She was in her 20s. My sister once asked me if the humans killed all the Homo sapiens because they were stupid. Also, when she found out that you need more stamps to mail a big package, she asked how many stamps it would take to mail a car. My dad told her 50 as a joke and she just nodded her head and said, oh, that makes sense. She was in college when she asked both of these questions. I worked retail. A woman who did not have her child with her asked me if I thought a piece of clothing would fit her child. Are you Asian or Chinese? So this happened at school. My parents are from China. I was born in the US. When people ask me where I'm from, I usually tell them I am Chinese and leave it at that. So after a few weeks or so, a person that's already asked me before where I'm from asks me this. A woman asked lesbians if they worried about pregnancy when having sex.